So this is my 6-week post-op update video. I think the last post-op update video I did was maybe week 3, I think. I've done some stuff at week 4, and I've done some other bits and pieces of recording. But other than that, this is, the first major update. I've tried to refrain from, doing too many long videos. The first few videos I did were quite long. Some were like 20 minutes, some were 30 minutes, 40 minutes or whatever. So the last few videos I've done have been quite short, quite succinct, and maybe covering just one topic or whatever. Today might end up being a bit of a long one because I am talking about where I am 6-week post-op. As you can tell, I'm doing well. I feel really fit, really healthy. So it'd be 6 weeks today would be the day that I went in to the Royal Brompton Hospital in London. Tomorrow would be 6 weeks to the date that I had my operation. And genuinely, I can't even begin to tell you how good I feel. It was such a big major operation, and the way I felt, certainly for those first couple of nights, just pretty much that whole the whole first week being in hospital, I could never have imagined my recovery to have been as easy, as pain free, devoid of complications. Touch wood, so far it's been really, really good. I couldn't have asked for a better experience, which for me is absolutely fantastic. I couldn't have asked for any more. I was fully prepared for the worst, and maybe that's helped because I was prepared for the worst. So the actual reality of it hasn't been as bad as I expected. In terms of where I am, in myself, in the previous videos I've been saying that my sleeping's been really good. I've been eating well. I've been walking a lot, generally getting up and about. After the first week or so, being back at home, that eased up. It really did. Any sort of pain getting out of bed and all of that stuff. So for me, my recovery has been kind of as normal as it could be. As normal to everyday life as it could be. I made sure I wasn't just sat watching TV, and that was my big thing that I wanted to do, was to make sure I wasn't just sat there watching TV all day and not varying the activities up. So I made sure I read a lot. I've been making these videos, doing other bits and pieces on the laptop. Been doing stuff like puzzles, colouring in, just anything to just break up the day and change. Have a change of scenery, so you're not just sat in one room watching TV, watching Netflix or whatever else. I've got a list up there, so I'm going to keep kind of looking up. Last week, so week 5 for me was like a massive milestone. I made a decision that at week 5, so on the Monday, so just before, one day shy of 5-week post-op, I was going to work out. And the workout that I did was to use the air bike that I've got. So back in September of last year, I wanted to add something else to my workouts. I wasn't working out a lot because of my heart, but I wanted to mix it up and do something different. And also in preparation for having the operation, I decided that I was going to go out and buy something new. So I went out and bought an air bike. So I've had it for 6 months now, and now I'm going to start actually making good use of it. But the first week, so Monday to Friday last week, every morning I got up, I got on it, I done about 20 minutes, which was about 9 to 10 kilometers, depending on how hard and fast I went. But the purpose of that was to get on the air bike, get the blood pumping. For those of you that don't know it, it is very much a full body cardiovascular workout. It works your arms, your back, your shoulders, your legs, the whole lot. So just doing that even at steady state was good. I had my heart rate up to about 123. So not really pushing it, but just going nice and steady just to see what happens. Absolutely no repercussions from that. Maybe definitely the Friday, perhaps the Thursday as well. Felt a little bit tired. Felt like it was going to be a struggle to do it, but pushed on through. And that was a bit different to Monday, Tuesday, where maybe like the adrenaline and everything else going, I was just ploughing through it. Whereas at the back end of the week, it was definitely a struggle. I decided I was going to give myself the weekend off from any sort of workout. So I still walked and I was still quite active around the house, but I didn't jump on the air bike. I wanted to give myself a couple of days rest. But from now, I'm at that 6 week stage where, they recommend that you can kind of ramp up your workouts, do a little bit more, start lifting over 5 kilos, which I've kind of been doing the last week and a half, 2 weeks, if I'm honest. So now, things are going to get interesting. I'm going to start pushing myself a bit more, really test driving a valve, see what I can do, see what it can take. So back on an INR update, I've done a previous video, so I won't go into too much detail. Other than to say my INR has been really well controlled, the warfarin level has been really good. I fluctuated. My lowest has been a 2, but I was pretty much on the first coag check, anti-coag check. It's varied then anywhere between 2.2 to 2.6, and I'm on an alternating dose of 7 milligrams and 8 milligrams. So depending on when I have my anti-coag clinic appointment, normally depends on how high or low the number is. So am I on the way up from an 8 milligram dose or on the way down from a 7? But they're really happy with it. They've now put me on bi-weekly or every 2 weeks having a checkup, which is fantastic. I don't have to go every week. The aim, hopefully, is to have the checkups monthly or every 2 months, whatever that is, but also to have the home testing kit, a CoaguCheck kit as well. So nothing really special. I've done nothing particular with my diet, with what I eat, or anything like that. I've just kind of kept it quite routine, quite familiar. So I haven't made any major changes there. So in general, any sort of symptoms, they do come and go. In general, I feel so much better than I did pre-op. The alert all the time. I find it really easy to concentrate, to focus on what I'm doing. Stuff that was quite difficult pre-op. In terms of sort of shortness of breath, that's kind of limited now. Before it was kind of getting changed, having a shower, that sort of stuff would bring on any sort of, shortness of breath. Maybe today I think I went up and down the stairs a couple of times in quick succession. So that was, a cause of shortness of breath. But in general, I'm not getting the pre-syncope that I had before. I'm not getting, the lightheadedness and, difficulty to concentrate, the shortness of breath and all of that. And factor that I'm only 6 weeks post-op, is really, really positive, and it can only improve and get better. Sleeping, as I've said from other videos, I've had no issue sleeping. The only things I've had in 5 weeks since being home, 6 weeks post-op, is the dogs have woken me up once or twice, barking at the wind or whatever they're barking at, and maybe a couple of times in the night I've woken up with like a dry throat and needed a drink of water. But other than that, I've slept right through. I'm getting a good 8, 9, sometimes 9.5 hours sleep every night, which is fantastic. And the only, so far, touch wood, the only thing, and you can tell from my voice, is I still suffer if I talk a lot with my voice. And that was mainly down to the breathing tube, and where I was struggling and I was trying to keep it in there and all of that sort of stuff when I was in the ICU. It did do some damage to the back of the throat and down into the esophagus or down the esophagus. And if I do talk for a long period of time, it's constant. I can feel it getting really dry. I can feel my voice croaking. Any sort of speaking on a phone and all of that. So that's been the only real repercussion I've had, obviously, other than the fact I've had open heart surgery and I've had my chest cracked open. But it's that's been the thing that I've suffered with. It's kind of irritated me because it's such a minor thing. You think you should be able to just talk normally, and it kind of flares up every now and again. And so, other than that, in general, it's been really good. I've had, I've mentioned like the numbness in the chest. That comes and goes. It's not as bad as it was. I had periods in the first couple of weeks where I had to make sure like my arms were supported. If I was in an armchair, I had to make sure they were rested because I was getting sort of aches and cramps and all of that sort of stuff. So it was really important to make sure that I was sat comfortably, sat straight. I couldn't slouch. I couldn't sort of take up many different positions, including in bed. I kind of had to lie flat for the first few nights. But that kind of went, obviously as the chest was healing and the muscles were repairing themselves, I'm easily able to sleep on my left side and my right side. And just doing small things now doesn't hurt the chest and hurt the muscle and what have you. But if I overdo it, so this past weekend, tidying up the garage, and I sorted out this room which I kind of use as an office. I really felt it at the end of the day. It was like numbness, like muscle ache. Wasn't bad, wasn't like a terrible pain, but you just knew that you kind of overdid it that day. But other than that, touch wood, I've been fairly lucky. In terms of the likes of incision, so you can probably start just see the top of the scar, and that is probably the worst. It is all the way down. The incision, the top of it is still the worst. In terms, it's still quite raised, it's quite red. So the rest of it's quite good. I don't know if you can see the central line marks and the other catheter that I had up there. So that's still quite pronounced. I'm not sure if it's down to being on warfarin or anything like that. You can't really see it on here. I did have a small cut, like a really small cut, and it's kind of gone down now. But the first couple of days after it happened, it didn't bleed a lot at all. It was one of those almost like scratches. And I didn't even notice it until well after whenever I did it. It didn't bleed or anything. But the one thing I did notice with it, it was really red and really raised for a good few days. And for something so minor, it's kind of given me a bit of an insight into, what could potentially happen with any of the, wounds, issues or whatever going forward. So perhaps that might be a repercussion, how visible they still are. And again, I'm not sure if you can kind of see it. I'll try and twist my arm around, if it's visible on the camera there. So where the heparin drip went in through into the arm, that was obviously in there for the whole week. That was taken out as one of the last things they did. And that's still quite sort of raised. There's a bit of a scar there as well. So it's those little things that are kind of still visible. But in terms of plan moving forward, so like I say, I'm at 6 weeks. My my plan was to take as long as I needed to take. I didn't have ambitions to be, as fit and healthy as I am now after the surgery. I lowered those expectations. I trusted the process. I trusted the healing. I trusted my body in doing what it needed to do. And whatever time, whatever I needed to do to make that easy by taking it easy, eating well, drinking plenty of water, all of that sort of stuff, any, deep breathing exercises to start, making sure the lungs stay clear, all of that sort of stuff. I could never have imagined it would have been this quick. I was fully prepared for at least a 12-week recovery phase, and I don't doubt there's still going to be a few bumps along that road. I'm no doubt, that I'm I don't believe, I'm fully recovered and all of that. But because I was so symptomatic pre-op, every day that I'm recovering and I'm feeling better and better and better, I'm already surpassing how I felt majority of last year. So for me, that's, that's the yardstick. That's, I'm always just feeling this progress and moving forward. I when I spoke to my work and my management team, they were so good, so understanding at the procedure and the length of time I needed to be off. And I made it very clear. I said, this is going to be a 12-week at least, potentially 3 months. Don't expect to see me back at work for 3 months. And that was purely based on what the surgeons had said and what the doctors had said as the maximum recovery time. I wasn't going to try and be a hero. I wasn't going to try and get back early and think, right, I'm going to aim to be back within 6-7 weeks and what have you. I wanted to know what was the a reasonable time, a reasonable length of time, and I was told 12 weeks. So that's what I worked on. And as that time went on, and as I've been healing and stuff like that, I've started to realise that there was no way I was going to use that 12 weeks. With everything that's going on in the world right now as well, my company are one of the companies that are doing home working as well. So my role can be done from home. So I've made the decision to return to work as of tomorrow. So when my sickness note runs out, or medical note, or whatever you want to call it, I will be back to work. Now that is the arrangement I've come up with, and it's obviously different for other people and their employers, is a bit of a phased return. The fact that I'm working from home anyway means I don't have to deal with a commute, don't have to deal with going into the office and all of that as well. So my commute is about an hour and a half to 2 hour round trip. So it's there and back. It's about an hour and a half to 2 hours by train, and there's a walk at the end, maybe a 10-minute walk. So doing that on top of working as well may have been a challenge at this stage. So without everything going on in the world with coronavirus, COVID-19, and self-isolation and quarantine, my plan would have been eventually, when I do do a phase return back to work, it would be from home. It would be working from home. Circumstances have meant that it's almost the ideal opportunity for me to do it. I feel great. If anything, I feel so bored now that I'm not doing anything. Other than just activities around the house, I feel that I need to be challenged and mentally stimulated. All of that's good stuff. So my agreement is from tomorrow I go back to work. I'll work the morning, maybe 7:30, 8 o'clock until midday, 1 o'clock, and then I'll stop. Laptops off, phones off, and I have lunch and do what I need to do for the rest of the day. Relax, chill out, watch TV, do whatever, and take each day as it comes. I might be one day into this or half a day into it and decide that it's too soon. But the way I feel, how good I feel, I really need to get back to doing something. Really need to get back to being stimulated and helping out and trying to do something. And I'm under no illusions. That first week, I'm probably going to be ploughing through emails. I could only imagine how many I've got, but I'm hopeful there isn't anything to do in those emails, because if anyone was sending me anything to do, then potentially we're going to be waiting a long time. So yeah, that's the big news really, is back to work at 6 week stage. And I'm not posting this to show everyone put everyone to shame who takes longer to recover. If you're on this recovery road, on it now, you've been on it or whatever, everyone's journey is their own journey. Your body is your own body. It does what it needs to do to heal. Everyone's individual. I recovered so quickly from my first open heart surgery, and a lot of that was down to the fact I was young. As a kid, you kind of bounce back a lot quicker from these things. I put a lot of weight behind how I've kept myself in good health, good fitness, relatively speaking, in the past 9 months that I could do while I was waiting for this operation. But prior to that, the gym has been a big big part of my life, and it doesn't mean I don't enjoy myself. One of my main things I've tried to do previously is, for example, Monday to Friday, I'll eat clean, I'll eat really, really healthy, I'll work out every day. Probably do the same Saturday morning, I'll have a workout, and then Saturday, I'll just eat what the hell I want. I'll drink alcohol, obviously, that's going to be limited now, but I would eat, drink, we'd go out to restaurants, but I always, worked out. I always played sport, and I wasn't walking around rocking a six pack every day of the year. That was normally reserved for holidays. You'd work up to a holiday, but I've had that ethos ever since I was diagnosed with the leaky valve or the regurgitation in the valve. When that happened, make no mistake about it, I was a fat teenager. I think I was about 15 stone. And for someone who's only 5'4", being 15 stone meant I was like a bull, and really didn't look after myself. I was sat around playing video games, eating whatever I could eat. And from that moment, that was it. That was my, motivation, inspiration, whatever you want to call it, to maintain a fit and healthy lifestyle. I put so much, credit to my quick recovery, to how I've looked after myself up until the operation. I always lifted heavy weights. That's probably not advisable now, but I would squat very heavy. I would deadlift really, really heavy for my weight. So normally I'd sit around 66 kilos, and I was deadlifting 185 kilos. So that was almost 3 times body weight, which is, really, really good. And I'd always maintain that sort of that workout and what have you. It meant that, when I was in the HDU in the hospital and I was getting in and out of the chair, I wasn't having to use my arms and then putting the pressure on my chest and really struggling. I was able to just stand up. I had the strength and power and muscles in my legs to just do it. And in general, you know I put so much down to how I kept myself. Having that positive mindset as well is absolutely massive. And you know having people and a support network around you is really good, but it's kind of looking after yourself because no one else is going to do it. Looking after your body because you only get one body. I was diagnosed with this leaky valve. I said to myself, I'm going to get as fit and healthy as I can, because I'm not now. I'm sat here at 15 stone as a teenager. I was like 14 at the time, and I was overweight, unfit. I wasn't doing the best I could do to get my body into shape. And I firmly believe that ethos, that mentality meant that the surgery was pushed back and back and back and back. I kept myself fit, kept myself healthy. I was told it was imminent at 14, 15, because they didn't know how long it'd been regurgitating for, and how bad it was. They then monitored it, and they just kept on saying maybe next year, maybe next year. And then when I got to like 16, they just pretty much put the yardstick out and said, you probably have the operation before you're 30. That's all we can really guess at the moment. So for me, that was always the mark. I ended up having the operation when I was 32, so I've prolonged that for 2 years or whatever. But I did everything I could do. Keeping fit, keeping healthy, but still having a life, still going out with friends, still drinking, still having a laugh, going on holidays, doing what I want to do, eating what I want to eat, but having that strict regime of working out and stuff like that, looking after your body. And there's so much more I can do, but I firmly believe that my recovery has been down to just how I've managed myself, managed body and things like that. And again, like I say, it comes down to that mental attitude and how you see life. I like I said, I'm not doing this video to prove that I'm better than anyone else and I've recovered in such a quick time than anyone else. But I've had, there's there's 3 or 4 Facebook groups that I'm on. Mind Ticks, Zipper Club, Open Heart Surgery. Basically, if you've seen this video, I would have posted it on there. There's certain people on there and certain individuals, when I've posted comments about how well I'm doing or put my videos up, have always said, well, wait till this happens or wait till that happens. And there are some very, very negative people out there, and you can kind of get lost in that negativity when you're on those groups and pages and things like that. And everyone's journey is different, and some people it would take a year. Some people might get to the 12-week stage and just not feel ready. I feel so good. One of the things I'm going to try and do is go for a jog at some point this week, but because I'm in the UK, we're on lockdown, so I've only one chance a day to go out of the house to do physical activity, and in the last couple of weeks that's been walking the dogs. So they won't get a walk one day and I'll go for a run. But it's just stuff like that. I firmly believe everything I've said about looking after yourself, working out, eating the right sort of stuff, fruit and veg, and all of that. So look after your body and your body will look after you. I've been very unfortunate that I've had to have 2 open heart surgeries, and I'm not even 33 yet. I'm 32. I've had 2 open heart surgeries, but I recovered very quickly from the first one, and I lived a normal childhood after that and through the teenage years. And no one would ever know that I'd had a heart surgery. I played football at school every lunchtime. I played rugby for the school. I played rugby for the town. I then you've got a job, got an apprenticeship. Worked hard on my career. I'd done a degree through the Open University. I've done other further education. I've kept on pushing and pushing and pushing, and I've had to have this other open heart surgery. And if it wasn't for these videos and for me documenting what I'm doing, I guarantee no one would ever know that I'd had it, because I'm not going to go around and being woe is me. For me, it's a motivating factor to have had open heart surgery and to be 6 weeks after that surgery and be able to walk back into work. And obviously I'm going to be at home, so I'm not going to be walking into the office. 5 weeks post-op to be working out. This week I'm going to be lifting weights. I'm going to start doing yoga. I'm going to go for a jog. All of this is going to be documented. And I know this isn't going to be the same for everyone. And it's not, I reiterate, I am not, rubbing anyone's noses in, look what I can do. But this is what you can do for some people. Not for everyone, but for every case that's out there where it takes you, 18 months and you still can't sleep in your own bed. There's people like me who can sleep in their own bed the same night they come out of hospital. They keep a positive mindset. I'm really, really fed up with some comments and some people on these Facebook groups and the messages I get about, oh, wait till this happens, wait till that happens, and it's that negativity. It doesn't have to be for everyone. I've always said, if I can inspire one person through these videos, that's all I'm aiming to do, and show that if you are watching these videos, if you're watching this because you're my age, younger, a little bit older, and you've been told you have to have heart valve surgery or any sort of open heart surgery, and you're worried about it, hopefully these videos can inspire you. Hopefully you can look at my recovery and say, God, this guy in 6 weeks was able to go from, being in a hospital bed after being, cracked open, being helped out of bed by a team of 3 nurses, could barely walk the corridors, to now, and the recovery is still going. I'm still need to get back to where I was, fitness wise and all of that. All of that's going to be documented, but I just want to set the record straight that yes, it can take people 18 months. Yes, it can take people 2 years. It's taken me 6 weeks, and it can take you 6 weeks. It can take someone 12 weeks, 15 weeks. Everyone's journey is their own.